watching Trending Tonight with me, Sanket Upadhyay. Two stories that we are focusing on. Number one, Delhi is now, in just a short moment, going to be in a situation of a night curfew. But we ask a very, very important question. Do they really help? And more importantly, forget helping. Because it's not like COVID-19 virus is going to suddenly disappear in the night. The point is, or appear in the night. The point is, a night curfew is going to very, very seriously impact a lot of people. People who are restricted in their operations in the night. For instance, hoteliers. For instance, street vendors. What happens to them? Who has thought about them? Or is this a case where some decision has to be taken and that's why it has been taken? What's the rationale behind night curfews? We're going to ask that question of the spokesperson of the Aam Aadmi Party. And story number two, which is also very significant, a fallout of the increasing number of COVID cases. There is a sudden COVID surge, and thus many people have launched now an online campaign whether board exams be postponed. Some are radical enough to say they must be cancelled. But the question that we are asking is that should the board exams be postponed or not? And we'll get you the opinion from both sides. There are people who feel no, they should not be. Should be better mechanism in place. And there are others who feel postpone them. We do not know how this crisis is going to unfold. Let's quickly move to story number one on whether night curfews help or not. I have Vineet Wadhwa. He's the founder and CEO of FIO Restaurants and also member of the National Restaurant Association of India, NRAI. We also have Jasmine Shah. He's the vice chairman of the Delhi Dialogue and Development Commission of the Delhi government, spokesperson of the Aam Aadmi Party. Thank you very much. Jasmine, let's begin with you first. Can you answer this question straight up? How does a night curfew help?
Sanket, I think one needs to see the decision of imposing night curfew as part of the overall strategy to contain COVID. We all know that this current COVID wave that the country is seeing is extremely dangerous and even more steep than the first wave, last year. Now, as far as Delhi is concerned, we have a three-pronged strategy that we are implementing to contain COVID, where night curfew comes at number 3. Allow me 30 seconds to just summarize what number 1 and 2 are.
Sure.
The first and foremost, we are doubling down on vaccinations at a rate faster than any other city or state in the country. Honorable CM Arvind Kejriwal has already opened a number of government hospitals 24/7. No other city in India is doing that for vaccination. We have written to the Prime Minister requesting let vaccinations be open for all. And rather than sending hordes of vaccines abroad, this is the time when India is actually, one of the worst affected COVID nations right now. This is the time to really open up and double down on vaccinations at a rapid pace. So that's number one. Second, we need to again ensure that COVID appropriate behaviors are followed. Curfew or no curfew, if people are going to violate COVID norms, not wear masks, then obviously corona is going to spread. And that is why in terms of number of fines that are levied as well as the strict measures, and Delhi police has been raiding many of these places where COVID norms are not being followed.
Vineet, let me now come to you.
Yes.
See, the point is,
yes,
when there will be night curfews, obviously it is going to hurt the economy. I hear that hoteliers have now written, or they've also submitted an appeal to the government that our industry is going to be destroyed.
Yes, I feel the issue is very well addressed, but it's just the timings which are not right, I feel. 10 o'clock is too soon to actually shut down, and because probably they have confused nightlife with the restaurants. And what is my biggest worry is that we've just about started to hire people back and business was looking up, and here we don't know how we'll handle our fixed costs such as rents and manpower for the next 1 month. But more importantly, I think that the issue of vaccinating the youngsters should be taken up, because they are the ones who are really mingling up much more rapidly than the people in the older age groups. As a concerned citizen, I would say that 10 o'clock or 11 o'clock, it does not matter. It can still sustain the restaurant industry, and perhaps the nightlife industry will get affected with these timings. But 11 o'clock would still be a very decent time to continue on till. More importantly, I would say the issue needs to be about the youngsters getting vaccinated quicker than imagined.
No, fair enough. But the point is, see, what does the government do as of this moment? Yes, we'll question them on the rationale, on the logic, but the point is some action has to be taken. See, today, if the hoteliers and the restaurant owners are saying that please keep it open for a little while, then you'll have someone else who will say keep it open a little longer because economy is getting affected.
No, but it's very logical to see what is restaurant. Restaurant is actually a very service providing thing, whereas nightlife is another chapter altogether. It has not to be confused. You dining through the day, why are you giving respect for a restaurant industry? The restaurant industry could have been shut altogether. The hospitality should have been shut altogether if it was really creating the kind of anti-sentiments, or let's say it was not carrying on in the right way. But I think it's a service. It's an essential service of a kind. Why is delivery so important and not restaurants? Perhaps the restaurants today have been taking so much caution. And what I see as a concerned citizen is the youngster who was flonging to the night spots. And what is now happening is that the entire industry is going to suffer for it.
Okay. Jasmine, let me quickly come back to you. So we had, I'm not sure whether you were able to hear Mr. Wadhwa or not. He represents the voice of the Restaurant Association of India. And he says that, you have to differentiate between nightlife and a restaurant. So a restaurant is basically going to agree with your restrictions if the time could be 11 p.m. But I want to come back to the larger point on night curfews, on its rationale, the logic. See, it's not like the virus is going to go off to sleep during the day and will only emerge in the night. So why does a night curfew help?
Yeah, no, I'll come to it. See, if you see the trend in Delhi over the last few days, many events and parties that were being organized in the evenings, particularly in banquet halls as well as in hotels, people were found to violate COVID norms. Now, of course, the easy thing for a government to do is impose a complete lockdown. But we have seen what has happened last year of the economic impact of lockdown. Millions of people have lost their job. India's GDP has nosedived. So, the government has to walk a tightrope in this situation, that with minimum economic distress, how do we ensure that a certain level of super spreader events, a lot of wedding celebrations, a lot of large functions happen in the evening. And by allowing it at 10 o'clock, it means that you shut down your businesses at 8 or 9 and allow people to commute and go back to their home. So I think this is a difficult call. I mean, we are not saying that there will be no economic impact. Certain sectors will be impacted, but this is not going to be for long. We are only seeing a wave. Doctors and experts have said that in the next couple of weeks, hopefully this wave will subside. And we want to work with businesses. We want to work with the traders and all the associations and ensure that we do not make large disruptions on the economy.
Okay, so Mr. Wadhwa, you heard the rationale.
But why are we mixing up the two industries?
No, the rationale is that a lot of people are violating COVID norms, particularly in the evening, in the night. And that is why this decision has been taken.
Yes, that's why I say that the restaurants, nightlife and banqueting and weddings, they are three different chapters. They could have been very easily addressed. Like you have addressed the delivery factor, you could have addressed the restaurant industry very differently from the banquets and nightlife.
Okay, Mr. Shah, do you think that this should be like a thought in motion, that maybe that you can review your decision going forward?
No, Sanket, we are certainly open to, conversations. At the end of the day, we are accountable to the people. And I must also assure Mr. Wadhwa and all your viewers that this was not a decision taken in rush. Central governments has recommended, the experts that are there in Delhi have also been in conversation over the past few days. You've seen the trend of cases. Thankfully, we are still at 5% positivity rate, when many states like Maharashtra are at 14%. But we don't want to get there and then take some action. We are hoping that within a few weeks, we'll be able to control this wave and things will be back to as they were.
Okay. All right, Mr. Vadwa as well as Mr. Shah, thank you very much for joining us on this discussion. Let's move on now to story number 2 on the sudden COVID surge and whether the CBSE examinations must be postponed. See, the dates were announced at a time when there wasn't a surge, there wasn't a spike. But now we are in a situation where we see 1 lakh plus cases every day, and this has suddenly happened. Exams begin in the month of May. Should the exams be postponed? Because that is a fear in the minds of a few parents and children. However, there are those who feel that they should not be postponed. All sides of the story right here on NDTV. I want to welcome Vrinda Swaroop, former Education Secretary of the Government of India. Thank you very much. Parnika Malhotra, student of Modern School, Barakhamba Road. Thank you very much for joining us. We also have Parikul Bharadwaj, class 10 student of Mount St. Mary's School, who's going to join us in just a short moment. And Nitin Vijay, Managing Director of Motion Education Center, is also with us. Thank you. Let's begin with you first, Parnika Malhotra. Do you think that these examinations must be postponed or not? If yes, why? If not, why?
I don't think that they should be postponed. Being a student of a school like Modern School, we started with our courses in March and we had finished our syllabus in November. Postponement will just lead to uncertainty in our minds, and of course, they have been colliding with our entrance exams also, and if we change the dates all of a sudden or postpone them, it is also going to interfere with the international admissions. I think with suitable precautions and by giving another test schedule to be taken immediately after the first set of boards for those who miss any board due to COVID situation in their house will be helpful to all.
Okay. Nitin Vijay is also with us. Mr. Vijay, what is your opinion? Because, you know, while I respect the opinion of Parnika, there is also the opinion of the many on social media who seem to have fear. And that fear is valid. See, nobody knew when these dates were announced that there is going to be this sudden surge. The fear is real, and it has happened, after this announcement was made. Mr. Vijay.
Sir, I have a different opinion from you on that context, because I personally feel that we have taken education very lightly last year also. So, if suppose we see the protocols which government has taken, they have divided most of the things into two buckets, you can say. One is the essential things which should be followed into COVID, and one is the non-essential things. And I'm very sad about this, that we have put education into non-essential things. So obviously in last 1 year, we have evolved ourselves into the education using the technology, so that we have deep dived into the systems where we can improve our distance learning programs. So what we were expecting in next 10 years without COVID, we have done that into 1 year. That is fine. But if suppose we are using telephones and mobile phones, we cannot stop meeting people, talking to them, because a human intervention and an examination going to the examination centers, that creates a different impact in the behavioral changes into the education and for the student itself. So I personally feel that we should not talk about that we should postpone the examination. In fact, I feel that we should talk about how we can ensure that maximum security and maximum protocol should be followed during the examinations.
Sure.
And what kind of extra measures we should take. Suppose most of the staff members from the government schools and from the government education sector, we put all of them when there is election into the country. So why we cannot do that when there is examination? We can put so many people so that they can ensure all the protocols should be followed during the examination. So I don't think that examination should be postponed, because tangibly or intangibly we have suffered a lot into the education sector. Online can be a substitute, but it cannot be 100% replacement. We have learned a lot in education by adding technology so that we can customize it.
Okay. Parikul Bharadwaj is now also with us, class 10 student of Mount St. Mary's School. Thank you very much, Parikul, for joining us. What is your opinion?
Thank you. So from what I think, having 1 year of online classes, now we're suddenly asked to shift to offline, and it is difficult for all of us to have suddenly shift, and from seeing the first wave of COVID, it is not easy to control COVID-19 second wave. And if we keep on postponing our exams now, it would be very tough for us to maintain our um, next years and complete our syllabus for next classes. So what we can do actually is have offline exams, or else we can also be passed on a basis of our pre-boards, as most of us had in Delhi had pre-board too in offline way, or we can also have vivas or our other in CBSE other things are also mattered. So we can be passed on that basis also.
Okay, interesting. See, the purpose of this discussion is to come up with ideas and solutions. We all know that there is a problem, and that problem is this sudden surge. Nobody saw this coming, at least not the students. And now you have a board examination. Hopefully, the decision makers feel that this surge too will end. Can we let it pass, or should we perhaps decide on what needs to be done? We also have Ms. Swaroop with us. Ms. Swaroop, what in your opinion is the best solution forward? That there is a problem, will you or will you not agree?
Well, there is a problem, but I think it makes no sense to postpone the exams at all. One of the things which COVID has taught us is that we must keep, innovating as we walk, as we step out. So this is the best way to move forward, and we can innovate. Now, there is genuine fear about the protocols being maintained when the physical exam takes place. These are genuine precautions which can be taken by schools, and as somebody suggested, they can be stepped up further, so that because there are cases being reported even in practicals, there have been some problems where either the invigilator has tested positive or some of the students have. So stories like that are also emerging, but it makes no sense to postpone it. We have to be abundantly cautious and perhaps double our protocols so that we are more safe for environment for the children and for the invigilating staff. But I think postponement makes no sense for the or cancellation for that reason, because what we are learning about offline exams also online exams has not been very helpful, and there are malpractices which are being reported. So a school leaving exam has a sanctity. It has the future of the child at stake, his or her entry into higher education. So that exam is in a certain sense sacred and sacrosanct, and that has to be done with a proper way of assessment, which I think is the physical way to move forward. But I agree that there should be a lot of precautions, even more so now that we know that that a second wave is escalating.
Okay. Let me take that question to the students. Parnika, do you feel that once the schools guarantee or fulfill these processes, right, then these offline examinations can happen on schedule, or perhaps maybe decide in such a way that you divide students in various classes? Maybe have a situation where instead of exams taking place in 10 classes, they take place in 20 classes. Think out of the box. Do you think this is the time for suggestions?
Of course, this can happen. It's just one whole grade to be spread out in the whole school. You can place like 5 students in a class and conduct the examinations in a very safe manner.
Let me ask that of Parikul. Parikul, do you feel that if students are spread out and this COVID protocol is followed, and students also take abundant precaution, then these exams must go on? Because there is a view online also, and a view among a lot of parents, that it's not practically possible. It's not possible to expect that these precautions will be taken care by each and every one with a guarantee. It doesn't happen. We've seen in the past, as Ms. Swaroop was pointing out, situations where people got infected with COVID because of writing these exams.
So since I had my pre-boards offline and we were asked to sit in a class with only 5 children or 10 children, it is difficult to maintain all the social distancing and all the safety precautions. And since when we go for giving exams and we all are standing in a line, we all are not always able to maintain that gap in between us. So it will be difficult, and we should think out of the box what else can be done.
Okay. Okay, Mr. Vijay, the Prime Minister, and I'll ask this question of Ms. Swaroop also. The Prime Minister is supposed to hold his, meeting and conversation with students for Pariksha Pe Charcha. Do you feel that an appeal from him to schools, to children, to students on how they need to follow the COVID protocols and follow abundant caution is going to help?
I think for sure, because what all 4 of us was telling you the same, that exam should not be postponed. And before starting anything, I must congratulate and thanks Pandika and Parikul for not suggesting postponement of the examination. What you just told me, that obviously if Pradhan Mantri and PM of the nation will set up new standard for awareness among the students, that how they can go to with the examinations, and at the same time if we'll ensure the high level of monitoring in the examination halls, that will really help us to make sure that examination should be conducted along with the proper awareness and monitoring by the different invigilators, you can say. That will really help the students to make sure that they will go along with their proper courses for the next level of their classes. So I think that what you have suggested, that is that help by, if suppose Prime Minister of India will set up new benchmark for the awareness, that will really help for the students.
At the same time, Ms. Swaroop, I just want to, for the sake of the argument, and also presenting the view of all those who have launched an online campaign to say that, some of them say cancel, but I would say that there are vast majority feels that they must be postponed. Why don't you think that can be considered as a possibility? I mean, nobody is saying that you do it for a very long period of time, but wait until this wave is over. This wave is a major problem.
Well, you see, COVID, and we know it ebbs and rises, and it's a very unpredictable situation. The exams have already been postponed. Don't forget that. So to postpone them further, you're going to hit university intake time, and already the universities are compromised with that time. So I don't think a postponement in this situation is possible for the academic sessions and the way they work. But at the same time, when we know that there is a wave and a second wave, and we are in the middle of it, what I think I was trying to press and in my earlier intervention was that this is the time to put out revised protocols for schools and examination centers, so that you have abundant precaution for the children and for the staff who is going to be there.
Correct.
So whether you stipulate that everyone must be tested 72 hours before, whether an invigilator or a student, you can do many things. You can, as a student was suggesting, you can space out the kids. Where you were having 10 kids in a classroom, maybe you could just reduce that. These are things are possible. There is enough time to plan for that.
Correct.
And to be very, very careful to do this.
Absolutely.
And of course, an appeal by the PM would be enormously, in favor of getting things organized in a better way. But it should be followed up by the school boards, by the state governments.
I think the very important point that is being mentioned by Ms. Swaroop is that we still have some time to put better protocol in place, keeping in mind this surge. Thank you very much. Run out of time, but news and updates will continue on the other side. Thanks.